Hi there YouTube, welcome back to another Black Powder video, and this video kind of will end, I suppose you could call it like the first season of my first core project, first Allied Corps. Basically today I'm going to run through the full 2nd Netherlands Division. I am going to do sort of close-ups, but not quite in the same sort of time scale or detail as I do in my normal videos. And of course, obviously, because this is an overview video, if you do come across a battalion that you want a closer look at, then I recommend going to find the video that's on that particular unit, because you're talking a sort of a 15-minute video, of which probably 10 minutes of it is you know, really closely focused on every single base of miniatures, where in these sort of overviews I tend to try and still put some detail in, but also you know, try and cut it down as to basically not repeat what I've already done, and also still give you a good look at the figures if you haven't got time. You know, if you want to spend half an hour now looking at the whole division, you don't have to spend you know, a couple of hours looking over each individual battalion and command figure. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to run through each and every part. This is the 1st Brigade set before you, and also the divisional commander. And I'll basically go through, I'll tell you who's commanding, I'll tell you how many troops there were, and obviously the actual battalion themselves. So let's get going, and we're going to actually start with the division commander. Now obviously I've just done a video on him, so you know, if you want more on the background history of these two chaps, and also the guide here, the trooper from the Corps of Guides, or the corporal from the Corps of Guides, I'll run over the sort of a brief sort of history of what this scene is supposed to portray, and also a brief history on the actual guides themselves, which I found actually quite an interesting group of troops. So let's get going. So first of all, let's zoom in. So here we have the division commander. I'm not going to spend too long on it because, like I say, you can basically just go back and watch the video on them. But this is basically a scene where the divisional commander himself, which is the chap with the map, is Major General John Victor Constant Rebec, Baron, and next to him is the Corps Chief of Staff, Rebec, and behind him we have the one of the corporals of the Corps of Guides, basically waiting for these two commanders to make up their mind about whatever they're talking about. And like I say, if you want to find out the history of why I've kind of set them up like this, then I give a sort of a really brief sort of historical overview of why you know, why you actually get these two guys in the pack. You know, why they're sort of linked together, and perhaps why Perry's decided to sort of model them together as in the same pack. So that is the division commander. Really nice base on this guy. I used some new tufts, these sort of little bushes that I got from Tajima, and of course lots of flowers and stuff, because it's kind of meant to be a sort of a top of a hill. So it'd be like, you know, not particularly sort of trumped over. So that is the first element, and of course it's the division commander, Perpochina. So that is the division commander. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put them off to the side when I'm done with them. Next up we'll go for the commander of the 1st Brigade. This chap is Lieutenant General, sorry, that's wrong, Major General Graf von Biljant, and let's give you a closer look at him. So this is a front rank French commander, actually, I was sort of like, I've actually managed. I've been sort of looking around, and I have actually found a few companies that do a few Dutch officers. At the point when I was looking around for divisional commanders, however, I hadn't found any other companies that do them, just sort of like general figures. So I ended up basically hunting, finding the closest thing to them, which is French commands with the same style of jacket. So this guy was originally a French commander, and I actually converted his boots from heavy cavalry boots to light cavalry boots. I moulded his feather tuft on the top of his bicorn, and of course everything else is more or less standard, because I mean, I suppose the only difference is that he's got kind of a French style saddle rather than the more allied style. Well, the Dutch use kind of those sheepskin across the top of the pistol holsters, rather than the French style sort of I guess it would be leather holsters, kind of flaps. So that is the only real difference between a sort of a French and a Dutch officer. So this chap, like I say, is the commander of the 1st Brigade, and I think he came out pretty cool. Of course, for brigade commanders, they generally don't have anything super special as far as their command stands go. They're just normally a single figure on a horse, on the 60mm circular base that I use for my command figures. So that is Beljean, commander of the 1st Brigade. So let's get him out of the way. So right, we're now going on to the troops. So for the first up, we're going to start with the first unit that's on the order of battle, and that is these chaps here. These guys are the 27th Dutch Jaeger. They numbered 550 men, and they were commanded by a Lieutenant Colonel J.W. Groenbosch. Now, I believe these guys are elite, or at least most of them are. I think the most of the command and the Hornist are Perrys. So let's give you a quick look at some of these guys. So what I'll do is I'll give you like I don't know, like the Hornist stand. I'll just do a quick sort of zoom in on that. So as you can see, we have 3 elite troops and 1 Perry's Hornist there. And yeah, I was really pleased with the way that these chaps turned out. I was found like a really nice green to use. It's actually gunship green, I believe, from Vallejo. And yeah, I think it's a really nice colour for their jackets. And of course, let's give you a look at the command base. This is obviously a command base with a mounted colonel. He is Perry's, and so are the other 2 officers on this base. And the flag is from Elite Miniatures, their Dutch flag range. So yeah, really nice command base there. So that is the 27th Dutch Jaeger. So let's move those chaps out of the way. Okay, next up we'll go for the 7th Belgian line. Whoops, sorry about that, just move the camera. So let's zoom in on these guys a little bit. So these guys numbered 701 men, and they're commanded by a Lieutenant Colonel F.C. van der Sand. And these chaps are also elite, with again a sort of Perry's, mostly Perry's command. So let's start off with the drummer's stand again, or the musician's stand. So here we have a really nice looking Perry's drummer with the sort of bandaged head, and 3 elite Belgian troops there. Of course, these guys are more or less the same as any other Dutch trooper, apart from the fact they have their own unique shako with the plume on the side. So yeah, pretty good. I do really like Elite Miniatures. They're definitely one of my go-to companies. And now, again, we'll go for the command base. So again, like I said, these are Perry's. All of these figures are Perry's. We have the standard there with the again, it's a Elite Miniatures. I believe it's the line infantry variant flag, and junior officer holding his shaker up in the air, and a mounted colonel who is also from also Perry's model. He's from the Perry's mounted colonels pack, I believe. So that is the 7th Belgian line. Again, a really nice unit. Next up, we've got 3 battalions of Dutch militia. Now, Dutch militia are quite prevalent throughout both the 2nd and the 3rd Netherlands units. This particular brigade has 3, or this particular division has 3 battalions, and the 3rd Netherlands actually has 6 battalions split between the 2 brigades. So as you can imagine, there's going to be quite a few Dutch militia. So let's start off with the first unit, which is the 5th, which I believe are these chaps here, I believe. So let's give you the blurb. So these are the 5th Dutch Militia. They numbered 482 men, and they were commanded by Lieutenant Colonel J.J. Wolzenberg. And again, we'll go through a stand of the drummers. Now, I did read somewhere that I actually copied the drum design from the classic Saint Jean site, and I did actually read somewhere else that the drum design is wrong for these chaps. However, what I decided to do was I decided to give them a little bit of difference between 3rd Netherlands, is to use this style of drum for the 2nd Netherlands, and I'll use the correct drum design for all of the militia units in the 3rd Netherlands. So just a little bit of artistic license there, just to you know, I thought it would be nice for them to have different drum designs per division. So that is the drummer. The command stand. Now these guys are obviously a foot command base. My command bases are always, I always try and do them the same. They always have 2 officers, the standard, and normally the person at the back is, I try to make him like a high ranking NCO, but occasionally you have to end up putting just a normal trooper in, or a corporal or something like that. In this particular case, that's what I did, but I did give him a flat cap just to make him a bit different. So we actually have 2 front rank, and the secondary officers are Perry's along with the trooper. And yeah, really nice figures. And of course, for their flag, they have the Dutch militia variant flag. And basically the main differences between the 2 is that the original flag has like a green wreath around the edges. So what I did was I decided to use this style flag for the 2nd Netherlands, and the 3rd Netherlands will have the wreath around. Again, as another way of making them look a little bit different. Because obviously all Dutch militia are going to look the same. It's just another quick way of knowing from which division they're from. Although you could always write it on the bottom of their bases anyway, so I mean, if you're that lost, you could always just pick up a stand. Next up, we're going to go for the 7th Dutch militia. Now, I think that's, I could be wrong. It's either going to be the 7th or the 8th. So we'll just potluck it. Let's have a look. What do we got? This is the 7th. Yeah, I was correct. So this is the 7th Dutch militia. Now these chaps, the previous ones were mostly Perrys. These chaps are all front rank, apart from the mounted officer and the drummer, possibly. I have got a tendency to use Perry drummers because they're such nice figures, but I won't be able to tell until I actually pick it up and have a closer look at it. But actually, it might be the front rank, actually. So here's the drummer's base for these chaps. Again, as you can see, I've used the same drum design, and these are all front rank. Again, really nice figures. So that is the drummer's base, and then we'll go for the commanding officer's base. So again, we have a mounted base. I generally don't use mounted officers that often, and I actually quite like doing them. I've tried to do them as much as I possibly can in this. Well, I'm going to try and keep doing it throughout the project. It's a good way of not having to put a 4th figure onto the base. So we have again, apart from the Perry's mounted colonel, we have all the other 2 officers being front rank. So that is the command base, and that is the 7th Dutch militia done. So sorry again, moving the camera. And finally, let's go for the very last, actually the second to last. This is an artillery battery, which I actually forgot to get out, so I'll have to just take a little bit of time to get them out of their box in a second. So here we have the 8th Dutch militia. These guys numbered 566 men. Now I can't remember. Yeah, I think I did mention it in the last one. The 7th Dutch were 675, if I didn't mention. So 566 men, commanded by a Lieutenant Colonel W.A. de Jong. And these guys are mostly elite again. And let's just going with the drummer stand. So once again, we have a Perry's drummer. These elite guys are sort of advancing with their muskets raised. They weren't too bad. Normally, I'm not a great fan of figures with with their bayonets pointed out too much, because they sort of get in the way of the stand in front. And once again, we have another mounted colonel. This time, the mounted colonel is an elite figure, and we have, it looks like an elite standard and a Perry's secondary officer there. And of course another Elite Miniatures variant militia flag. So that is the end of that infantry. So let's just move those back. Now let's quickly, I'll just have to do a little bit of juggling around here, just because I forgot to get the artillery out. Hold on 2 seconds. The final element of the 1st Brigade, the artillery battery. So this is a Dutch horse artillery battery, excuse me, commanded by a Captain A. Biljeveld, and it's basically, I think the guns are front rank and the crews are a mixture of front rank and elite. Yeah, I was actually really impressed with the elite artillery. I brought a box of like a battery box, a sort of the equivalent of a battalion box. Really well priced. Basically, work out a few pounds more than buying 4 Perry's guns. I decided to get front rank crews in, because I actually had ordered a front rank battery, their equivalent of a battery bag, which basically comes with 2 guns and all the crews, and for some reason they included British guns with the Dutch, which is actually historically incorrect. The Dutch didn't use British guns until 1819, so they should come with French guns. So I had to basically buy in 2 French guns. Now, I think I've mentioned it in other videos as well that the Elite guns are quite chunky and heavy looking, so I decided to use front rank guns because they look a little bit lighter, and I think they look better for horse artillery, basically. So that is the artillery. Let's give you a quick close-in look at one of the stands. This is the command stand, or the stand with the officer on. I always have 1 officer per battery. And these are all Elite crew, I believe. Yes, it looks like they are. And that's the officer figure that comes included, which is another big bonus for Elite, because I really like the way they actually include. I mean, their crews are made up of 4 figures, their artillery crews, and you actually get like 3 normal crews and 1 crew with an artillery with an officer, which is really cool. That's just the way that I do my batteries, more or less. Apart, obviously, I had to get another officer up, but that was no problem because I basically just got 1 from front rank. But yeah, I think I'm going to basically get for my foot artillery unit. I'm basically going to get a couple of packs of Elite foot artillery for those. And again, I'll get 1 of the normal crews and 1 of the officer crews. So that's really cool. So that is the Dutch horse artillery. It's actually the only Dutch artillery unit within the 2 divisions, actually. All the others are all Belgian, strangely enough. Not that it really makes too much difference because the uniforms are exactly the same. So that is that. That is the end of the 1st brigade. Let's just bring in Bill Jan and bring in the division commander. And I'll just pull the camera back a little bit and you can get a sort of an overview of them all. So there we go. Getting in a little bit of background clutter there. So sorry about that, but there's a nice view of the battalion, of the brigade, sorry. So yeah, pretty cool. So that's the end of this part of the video. I'm actually going to do like I'm going to film this in 2 parts, but I'll probably edit them together. So let's finish the first part here, and in a few seconds, hopefully, the second part will continue. So until then, catch you in a second. Okay, welcome back to, for me, about 10 minutes, for you, a few seconds. Before you, we have the 2nd Brigade of the 2nd Netherlands Division set out. Let's start off with the brigade commander. Now, this particular brigade commander is somebody a little bit special. He's kind of like I suppose you could call him a minor personality. So he has actually got himself a rather more elaborate base than your sort of bog standard brigade commander. So this chap is the Major General Prince Bernhard of Saxe-Weimar. He was originally the commanding officer for the 28th Orange Nassau, and if you go to his original video, I explain the sort of historical reasons why he became a Major General. But he was basically breveted from Colonel to Major General. And because he's, like I say, because he's kind of like a sort of a minor personality, I've given him an extra posh base in comparison to what normal brigade commanders will have, and it kind of represents the flavours of the brigade. So we have the Prince himself in his orange Nassau uniform still, and we have a staff officer of the 2nd Nassau, representing the 2 uniform styles of the brigade. and I thought that was kind of fitting. But yeah, really beautiful figures from Perry. So this is the Prince of Saxe-Weimar, from the Prince of Saxe-Weimar pack. So that is the Brigade Commander. Okay, now next up we'll go for the 1st Regiment on the Order of Battle, and that is the 2nd Nassau und Siegen. These numbered a total of 2,673 men, and they're commanded by a Major F. Sattler. Now, how I model these particular guys, or this sort of French style regiment, is to have a separate colonel figure. Now, the reason I do this is because all of the separate battalions have named officers. So for that reason, I actually make the colonel figure a separate figure, so that he gets represented too. So this chap here is Major F. Sattler, Perry's figure, I believe, from the Prince of Saxe-Weimar pack. Yeah, I decided to pull him out and use him as the colonel for this regiment, because it's actually quite difficult to try and find Nassau officer figures, although I did actually find out that could basically get them from front rank in the end, but at that point I hadn't realised, and so I pulled this guy out. But he's a really nice figure, so I'm really happy I did. So that is Major F. Sattler, and he is the commanding officer of the 2nd Nassau. First up, let's go for the 1st Regiment. So this is the, I think this is the 1st Regiment, I'll find out in a second. Actually, I don't know if it is. I think it's actually these boys. Let's just have a look. No, that's the 2nd Battalion. Oh, I see what's happened. Hold on. No, that's right, this is the 1st Battalion. So, let's bring them in. Sorry, that had a bit of confusion, because for some reason I didn't write which battalion it was on the bottom of the base, and then I realised that I put an extra 1 in brackets to tell me that it's actually the 1st Battalion. So, the 1st Battalion of Nassau are actually practically all front rank. I'll actually zoom in a little bit closer, actually. There we go. So, like I say, these guys are mostly front rank. However, I did include a couple of elite figures because of their different positions. They can be cast as NCOs. So, in this group, we have the senior NCO in the command group, and we have a normal NCO in the normal 3rd company, which I always use as what I call the NCO stand. So let's go through the normal procedure of showing you the drummer's stand and the command base. So this is the drummer's stand. We have all front rank guys here. We have the rather flashy drummer and 3 normal troops, and yeah, really nice figures front rank. You can always count on them for being good quality. And finally, the command stand. Now, on the command stand, we actually have 2 Nassau officers, or rather 2 elite miniatures. Sorry, the officer himself is a elite miniature, and of course the NCO. And then we have a front rank standard, and you can see that I used. There's no real historical representation of what the actual flagpoles that the Nassau used were. However, there is actually evidence that these guys did actually carry flags. Although according to historical fact, only 2 of the regiments, or 2 of the battalions, actually carried flags, and 1 regiment although it doesn't say which, I presume probably the third, just carried a very battle-scarred and flagless pole. I decided to use these tassels, and of course the flags are actually GMB. They're really beautiful flags actually. Yeah, that's the command stand. Very nice looking troops. Although they're a little finicky to get used to painting, they are really beautiful uniform troops. So that's the Nassau. I think for the green I used Vallejo deep green, I think it's called, or black green. That's right, yeah, black green, as the basis of their uniform. So that is the 1st Battalion of the 2nd Nassau. Let's move those boys right the way out of the way. Next up we'll go for the 2nd Battalion, which I believe are these chaps. These are the elite boys, although I have actually mixed some front rank guys in as well. So these guys do actually have a proper NCO. In this case I'll show you the NCO rather than drummer. So these, let's give the blurb actually, I've forgotten the blurb. So the blurb on these boys is for the 2nd Battalion, commanded by Major P. von Norman, and numbering 885 men, these boys. So let's get going. So like I say, I'll show you the NCO stand. So here we have 3 elite and an NCO from front rank, and we can see that the NCOs of these boys have their sobriquets, although to tell the truth the normal troopers do too. They have their yellow leather strapping, they have the stripes on the trousers, and of course he's got his NCO stripes there. So that is the NCO stand. And for officers, for the command stand, it looks like we have it looks like I used the Elite Miniatures flag holder, and we have another NCO and 2 officers as usual. So this is the Colonel, and again another GMB Nassau flag. So that is the command stand, and that is the 2nd Battalion of the 2nd Nassau. Let's move in now for the 3rd. So this is the 3rd Battalion of the 2nd Nassau, and these boys numbered 899 men, and they were commanded by a Major G. Hyman. And these guys are Perrys, and I believe they practically are all Perrys. I think there's like literally 1 or 2 elite guys mixed in here. Now I normally at some point have, because elite, I always buy my elite miniatures in battalion packs, I always have spare troops. In this particular case, I think it was a slightly smaller box. I think it was like a 30-man box rather than a 36-man box. So I didn't have any of the either the Voltigeur or the cold packed Grenadier figures loose. Normally I'd be able to just buy like 3 packs of Perrys and be able to make a battalion. However, in this case I think I had to buy 4 or 5 boxes, which is just shy of basically a whole battalion from scratch to actually build up enough troops. And of course that kind of annoyingly left me with quite a few unwanted troops. However, I did in the end decide to use a couple of elite miniatures within the unit. One of them actually on the command stand to sort of denote the NCO, and the other one I can't really remember why I decided to use him, but I do remember choosing. I like the Perry's miniatures figures so much that I decided to actually cut most of the elite spares out and use all of the Perry's, as many of the Perry's troops as I had. So there's actually quite a much higher ratio of Perry's troops than would be in a normal sort of what I call 50-50 battalion. So let's get going. Actually, I'm not going to, just going to do a short view. So yeah, actually, for this one, for a change, I'll actually show you the Grenadiers as the sort of normal trooper stand. So here we have all Perry's Nassau Grenadiers, and you can see that they wear cold packs, these guys, and they look very, very cool, and they're absolutely really amazing sculpts on these guys. And yeah, I basically fell in love with them, and although, to tell the truth, I didn't have any other spares to use, so I kind of, I just used all Perry's. So yeah, that's the Grenadiers of the 2nd Nassau, or the 3rd Battalion, 2nd Nassau, and then I go for the command squad. So on this one, we have again all Perry's, apart from this chap here, who's the senior NCO. We have this Grenadier officer, who I decided to, paint up as if he's decided to keep his Grenadier roots and keep his cold pack. Basically the only thing he had to change on it was just the colour of the pom-pom, to denote that he's the commanding officer in the 1st company. But I really do like that particular figure. And to tell the truth, the junior officers are pretty cool too. And again, obviously, same style of flag. And yeah, really nice command stand. So that is the 3rd Battalion, 2nd Nassau. Move those off to the side. So next up, we have another battalion following the French style. However, these guys are known as the Orange Nassau, and they were actually during the reorganisation in 1815. These chaps were given a regiment number because they basically counted as a sort of a Dutch line regiment, and they became the 28th. So that's where the actual numbered regiment comes from. Now, first of all, we're going to go slightly out of slightly skew F, and we're actually going to go to the this little unit, which is actually attached to the bottom of the 28th, and this is actually the Nassau Volunteer Jaegers. These guys were a relatively small contingent of civilian volunteers. Now on paper they numbered 177 men. However, actually during the battle, only 12 were actually deployed, and I don't think I actually found out a reason why. But they are obviously black powders wise, they count as a very small unit. I decided to use basically the box that you can get from Perry's, because you can actually get a box of named volunteer Jaegers, or Jaegers, and they come with 6 figures, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I added a officer and a bugler, and I had to do some conversions on those because obviously there's no the way that these guys are uniformed is that the shakos that they wear are French, so they wear French shakos, and there's no there's no other there's no officers available for this particular regiment, so I had to kind of convert them. Now this chap here, the bugler, was once a 28th bugler, so I had to cut the tassels off of his shako and put a different plume on top of his shako. The officer was originally a elite officer's body, and I basically cut head off another figure and stuck that on, and of course I had to also change the plume, so they do have the correct headwear. And yeah, I think, and obviously I mounted them onto these sort of the 40 by 40 bases, which I think looks better for sort of skirmishing figures. It gives them a bit more room, makes them look like they're sort of spreading out, and also they fit in with the rest of the army, which is another big thing that I like. And I actually used a slightly different basing technique. I used forest growth, undergrowth on the bases of these chaps, and I think they look really cool. So that is the Volunteer Jaeger. So let's go on to the 28th now. Now obviously the 28th again are designed around a French style. They have again a colonel figure. Now this figure is Major. No, it's the Duke of Saxe-Weimar, Lieutenant Colonel W.F. von Dressel. Now he was originally the second in command of, or rather the commanding officer of the 1st Battalion of the 28th. And when the Prince of Saxe-Weimar got promoted, he took command of the regiment. So he is now the colonel of the regiment, even though he is the rank of a lieutenant colonel. So that is von Dressel. Then we have the 2 battalions of Orange Nassau. So I'll try and bring them in together actually, because obviously the 2nd battalion I basically did a video on last week, so I won't be obviously spending too much time on those boys, but here we can see them both. So this is the 1st battalion. Now this battalion was actually commanded by, let's give you the numbers on them actually. So the 1st Battalion of the 28th numbered 893 men. I'll give you a look at the... Actually, I'll show you the NCO's base again. And the reason why will become prevalent in a minute. So here we have, these guys are all Perrys. There's actually no other companies that do the 28th. And they're kind of very complicated to try and replicate, because the type of shakos that they wear are French, and they have the same tassels as French. But of course, you can say, you know, well, you just stick French heads on. Well, yes, you can, but then you'll have tuft problems, because they have a Dutch style tuft on top of that shako. So there's no easy way, unless you kind of made them out of milliput or something like that. There's no real easy way of replicating them, and obviously you don't want to, you know, buy a bunch of Dutch line just so that you can transfer their tufts onto a whole bunch of troops that have got converted heads, you know, having the French shakos. But yeah, so it's hard to go all Perrys on these. You know, both of them are kind of duplicate regiments. Although, obviously, if you watched the original video, the NCO figure is the NCO on the NCO stand. This chap here is actually the NCO of the 2nd, and of course this particular unit has a mounted officer, so it doesn't really need a senior NCO position. So that is the NCO's stand, and then we have the mounted officer's stand. Here we have again all Perrys apart from the elite mounted colonel, or lieutenant colonel in this case. No, in fact, actually, this is the 2nd in command who took over this regiment after von Dressel got promoted to the colonel, the commander of the regiment. So this is like I say, an elite mounted miniature. But again, it helps make the 2 duplicate units a little bit different. And other than that, they actually got a more of a Dutch style flagpole for these boys. Again, obviously it's not known if they did actually carry colours, but I thought, well, you know, I've got the flags, I'm not going to waste them and you know, at the end of the day, I actually, part of the reason why Napoleonics, why I like Napoleonics so much is because of the flags and the command stands. So here we have the second. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail on these boys, but something that I will point out is that in let's go with the NCA stand again. So here we have the, like I say, the figure from the 1st battalion as the NCO on this particular battalion, and the sergeant figure have actually converted a little by moving his arm and closing his fist, so that it looks like he's about to point, or he's in the actual you know, he's actually already swinging his arm, and it's stopped at that point. And of course I did have to convert a secondary officer for these boys, because you actually only get one officer figure in the Perry's pack. And yeah, he's basically a Belgian line officer with a one of the spare troopers' heads actually just you know, snipped off and attached to the body, because the uniforms are basically the same. In fact, strangely enough, these guys are practically in mirror images, apart from the fact that the I think the Dutch officer has just got his arm bent a little bit more, and obviously his sword's off to the side a bit more, and I think no, I think the legs are in exactly the same position, but it's obviously based on the same sculpt. But that is the that's the second, and that's the end of all the infantry. And finally, we'll go for the artillery battery for these boys. Now these guys are the Belgian foot artillery, and they're commanded by a Captain E.J. Stevenart. Let's bring them in. So these guys are elite guns and front rank crew. We'll show you the command, the stand with the officer on. These guns are really chunky. I gave them the black barrel, which they did, basically, if the crews couldn't be bothered to, and they didn't have to keep their guns mega shiny, which, you know, normally if they're a brass they'd have to keep them shiny. What the French did for a lot of their, particularly their 12-pounders, was to paint their barrels black, so that I suppose, and you could sort of think that that's actually a good reason on the battlefield to try and keep your guns colours you know, muted, so that they're not sort of shining in the sun or whatever. But I decided to do that for the foot artillery. I really like it, actually. I was almost tempted to sort of go back and do the same to the foot artillery, the horse artillery. But yeah, we have these really nice chunky guns by Elite. They come in sort of long barreled 6-pounders, and I actually shortened them a little bit. They're more or less the same size as the front rank guns now. Although, to tell the truth, I don't really have to do it, because obviously there is such a thing as long barreled and short barreled 6-pounder guns. And I thought, when I sort of first saw them, I sort of panicked a bit, thinking, oh no, people are going to think these are like 12-pounders. But of course, it all comes down to calibre. So, you know, it doesn't matter how long the barrel is. You can see by looking at the front of it, it's a 6-pounder. But yeah, really nice guns, really nice crew. I particularly like the officer, the front rank officer in this case. Yeah, it's a really nice figure. And of course, apart from being in a little bit of odd positions, the front rank crew are brilliant too. So that is the guns of the Dutch foot artillery, and that is the end. That is the division overview. Now, if I thought about it, I would have kept the first out to give you a total overview, but it's not really needed, to tell the truth. And when I actually complete the third, I'll probably be doing a core overview. So I'll have them all. I'll try and have it all laid out then, and I'm sure it'll probably take a good chunk of my 6x4 table up, although not quite as much as my third core did. which basically took the whole table up. So anyway, that's the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Please, you know, the usual, if you like the channel, if you like the content, think about subscribing. If you want to be notified of when I put videos up, like I say, although the last 3 weeks I've put multiple videos up, I do tend to do one a week unless I'm taking a rest. And then there's always a slight chance I might decide to do sort of an impromptu video on something else. Maybe, you know, maybe like reviewing something that I've picked up, or a book review or something like that. And of course the usual, you know, like and comment. I'm always up for, you know, if you want to ask a question, or want to know what I did to a particular figure, or what colour paint I use, or whatever, just slap it down in the comments. And yeah, big thank you to everyone who watches my drivel. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye bye.